Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. This is DV LeBron, and I bought the show a little bit earlier today because, as you know, we have weather going on, and I am watching it, and it looks a little clear right now. But I am not the weatherman. That is what Kevin's job is over there at Ellis County Weather. But that said, I have a very special guest with me, Mr. Johnny Bryant, who is running for Waxahachie City Council Place Two. How are you doing today, sir?
Very well, very well. Thank you, Mr. Ron. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here. I'd like to say before we get started that you're really doing something good for the community, not just here in Waxahachie, but the county in general, by putting people out there to giving them an opportunity to know the constituents and the people here in the community, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate those kind words. Trust me, I'm humbled by the love that I'm getting from the county doing this. The I do it for the people. So go ahead and tell the people about yourself. Give them a bio of who is Johnny Bryan. Then I don't know. I don't know who is Johnny Bryan. Go ahead and tell them who
Okay.
Johnny Bryan is.
Well, I am Johnny Bryant, and I live here in Waxahachie, and I have for all my life. We're five generations through me living here. Through my grandkids, we're seven generations. I went to school here. I've lived here all my life. Uh, my grandkids are going to school here. My daughter-in-law, son-in-law are professional educators here at the WISD. My daughter owns a business here in town. My son Zachary, he's involved giving his time to soccer and youth programs here. And if you want to talk about Waxahachie, then we feel like we are Waxahachie.
De- Definitely Waxahachie. You said it was like 150 years here, or something like that. That you've been your family.
That's correct.
That's a long time. And then it sounds like your family's been part of all things Waxahachie at some point or the other.
Pretty
So
much, Mr. LeBron. Even my wife, she worked for the city of Waxahachie and retired about 10 years ago as one of the directors. So yes, we pretty much feel like we are really part of the fabric of this community.
wow. Well, um, I tell every I tell everybody who wants to run for these offices because um, they are meat grinders. It does get really tough out here. It's definitely not one for the weak. And I always tell them, I appreciate you wanting to serve your community. It's not an easy thing to put yourself out there like that and have people comb through you, and sometimes you become a caricature, and people can be mean. But that said, I wanted to go ahead and ask you, why'd you decide to run for city council?
Mr. LeBron, once I retired, I certainly had a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm, and the city and this community has given so much to my family over the years, and still involved in it. That I wanted to serve. I want to serve the people, and I've got a passion to do that. I think I have a resume and a background to do so. Love the town. My family's loved the town. Been here forever. I try to get involved a little bit earlier through boards and commissions, and I never was assigned to any of one. There was one at the end that really didn't have much value to the city. I think they met once a year, and the board wasn't even full, and I'm not even sure that they even met annually. But I really wanted to get involved in something I could see my teeth into, and really help this community. I hate to see it change too much from historically what it's been, and lose our charm, and lose what we worked so hard to have over the years.
Yeah, it is a charming town, and I do love that about Waxahachie, that small town feel. But it is growing, and the census told us as much, and then our eyes tell us as much with all the construction and stuff. And I was speaking with the mayor, who's the incumbent for where you're running,
Yeah.
Mayor Barnes, and he was telling me there was like 1,200 housing starts that were submitted for the year, which was like the record. And that's intense when you get told that the last record was 700, and you get told 1,200. So um but we're going to go into the growth, and we're going to go into that. What do you think you would bring to the council if you were elected?
Well, first of all, my resume, my background is been in infrastructure, pipe, paving, dirt, and bridges. Spent 30 years working for contractors or suppliers in that industry, dealt with the Texas Department of Transportation, the Corps of Engineers, private engineers that did multifamily all the way up to 60-story buildings. So my background, as far as the technical side of that, I feel I can handle that task, and I'll put the resume against the existing council as well as the candidates today. So I feel very comfortable being able to talk and walk in that aspect. In addition to that, the budget that the city of Waxahachie has was not uncommon to some of the same budgets that I ran. The value of $150 million was just about on the nose of several opportunities I had when I was in private industry, working those things. The difference between when I did those budgets is that I had to end up getting that order book and filling that $150 million of revenue up. The staff and the council, we just get to spend the money. We don't have to make that money. So the hard part I thought was always getting to that $150 million worth of order book before the budget was built around that and was exercised. So with that background, with background of the knowledge of what's gone on in town, living here since I was born in 1956. Yes, I went away for college, and I did live for about a year and a half or 2 years in two metropolitan areas. But it didn't take me long to get back here where I wanted to be and raise my family. So I think with my background, my resume, the knowledge I have in that, the knowledge I have through the finance side, operations and efficiencies, productivity, that's what I did for a living, Mr. LeBron. Spent 40 years doing those things, and I have all that training, I have all that education. Let me do it for the city of Waxahachie and the community.
Well, that is a spirited resume right there. So I ooh, sorry about that. Technology. Anyway, I wanted to get to fundamentals. I asked every candidate these fundamentals because how you vote, um, or everything that you do if you were elected to city council would be based on your fundamentals. What you saw the role of government was. So I'm going to ask you that question. What is the role of government, the Waxahachie city government, in the lives of the people of Waxahachie?
Mr. LeBron, I think it's really pretty simple. It's not hard to figure out that safety is the utmost responsible thing for the community and the citizens of the community. So I want to say fire and police, without a doubt, is the priorities to Johnny Bryant, and I would think for the whole community. When you pass those two issues, then water. You got to have water to live. I mean, and that's just a known. Water is an issue. It can be an issue. It looks like the state of Texas may have that as an issue going forward, and possibly the community of Waxahachie. I am familiar with what they have put in place to alleviate those issues. When we get through the first three issues, then we've got to go to sanitation. You got to have the sanitation that goes with that, where you don't create so much an unsafe an area of where you live that's just unsafe. When we get past those four main things, then we go to really the quality of life things of our parks, recreation, etc. So those are the things I think that's going to be my priority. Is absolutely what the government should offer its community and for their tax base.
Yeah, and there the the role of government is definitely something that's safety related. And I'm definitely going to ask you about that. I um I wanted to ask you another thing was your thoughts on your thoughts on kind of the First Amendment and how it applies to the citizens of Waxahachie. Because if you were elected, you'd be protecting that.
Mr. LeBron, I'm pretty much a constitutionalist. I believe in our amendments, in the First Amendment, freedom of speech, right to bear arms. I'm gonna follow that list right from number one on down, and I feel very strongly about that. Yeah, there's areas that you can't do some things as far as hollering, maybe in a movie theater, fire. Uh, I think we just apply common sense to those things. But absolutely, I'm the Constitution. I want to follow. I believe that's what protects our liberties, our freedoms. Once we get away from that, then we're getting away from who we are, who we've been, and who we should be.
And definitely, that is our core. That is what keeps us together. So, um, one of the issues that came up with Waxahachie City was COVID, and now Omicron came and went, and now it's kind of quiet in the COVID front, and we're kind of, it looks like we're on the other side of this. Like it might be on the endemic stage, but I'm not a scientist, so um, saying all that, there was things that were done during the pandemic in terms of decisions that were made by the city, by the county, by the state, by the federal government. Um, it's easy to turn around and second guess them now. Like one of the things that I cite is Judge Little. He told me, "Look, I was told 200,000 people might die. You know, and that number might be, but I was told this is what I was being told. Hey, if we don't do this, 200,000, 300,000 people die." Um, I mean, as a small town council, something like that might come up. So, looking back at that, do you believe that something like mass mandates, closing up places of worship or closing places of business, do you think that was the proper role?
Ooh, that subject is really sticky, and it's really deep, and it's really wide. There's not a good answer for any of those. I think the intent of our leaders of the county and the city, I think they believed that they were doing the things that they should do, whether I agreed with it or not. Uh, I think they felt that way. There's a lot of things that I didn't agree with from the federal level down that happened, but it wasn't about Johnny Bryant. It's about the community and the safety and the health of our people. So that was the most important thing. But with the media today, and the falseness and the reporting and the changing, there wasn't a good. I don't know. There was a good one spot you go to determine what you do, Mr. LeBron. It was a work in progress. I don't think anybody had the answers. It was a tough decisions being made. And I hopefully that everybody that was making those decisions was making it for the best interest of the people and the health of the community. I think that the intent was there. I feel comfortable by saying that. But there in all correct answers, certainly at that time as it was going on. On the hindsight, there's things that you could have done that, probably should have done that. But during that time, that Johnny can't tell you every move we should have made. I would just try to do the things I thought would protect our community health wise.
Understood. And that is a tough question, and some people, they answer it off the mark. Well, this, that, there's a lot of things to consider. So, that's a thoughtful way of thinking about it. Um, so now, we're through COVID, and during COVID, one of the things that happened as well was that we had conversations about race, and that those conversations weren't necessarily all that positive sometimes, but they happened, or they're happening, or they happen. So as a councilman, how do you Johnny Bryant, how do you deal with constituents that may not believe the same things that you do? And how do you deal with them? How do you talk to them? How do you address them? How does Johnny Bryant deal with that person that doesn't agree with what they're doing, what Johnny's
Uh,
doing?
Mr. Brown, I don't think there's any question those things take place, and those will be things that will come up in the future. But I think that if we get away from the polarization and the things that makes the headlines, and we sit down and we talk and we look face to people, I think we find out that none of us are that much different than the other person. That what the difference is we don't spend that time to interact and get to know people and get to know where they come from and their feelings and caring about each other. I think that we have as a society that social media let things end up dictating how we feel, what we do, and our actions, opposed to getting in front of people and just sitting there working it out. I'm old timey type approach. It's a common sense. Sometimes I wonder because it's not that common, but I think a common sense approach, interaction, face to face, sit down, table your opinions, table your differences, and work through those. I think we used to do those things. it seems like that we're slowly but surely coming further and further apart from doing those kind of things.
We are definitely talking less to each other and more at each other. Definitely, that's happening. I try to I try and do this so that you can. One of the things about this forum is that you can talk to people, Johnny. You could talk to Ellis County. You could talk to Waxahachie, and I'm not going to jump you. I'm gonna let you go ahead and talk and tell your piece, and you get to tell your piece without anybody jumping in. So that's one of those the things that I enjoy about this is what I wanted to bring. But
So that's a refreshing approach, and I can appreciate that, Mr. Brown.
thank you. So you were talking about the police. So one of the things that were big was defund the police, and while that didn't hit our local community, not our local community actually did very well during that time. We got together. There were some things that were rough, obviously, but we did better than most communities because we're Waxahachie. That's what we do, Ellis County. But there was questions about how police interact and how we should fund police or if we should fund police. So I want you to go ahead and tell people about your thoughts on the priorities of the police, what you'd like to see if you were elected councilman.
Well, when I said priorities for police and fire is number one, not one and two, but number one for both of them, I mean protecting the public without question. That's the number one thing. We've got to be safe in our community. I wasn't a proponent of defunding the police. You know, your insurance man and your police are the first people called that when you have issues. The last people you want to see, other than that. But the reality is that they play a very important role to us, and and I respect those people just like I do our military. Absolutely, they're serving the public. They put their lives on the line every day, and so you got to respect that, and you got to respect their positions. By saying that, though, on the other hand, without doubt, there are bad apples in every basket, and so sometimes the police might get a bad rapport or bad report based on a few of the people in a department that is not there for what they should be there for. Again, there's not a black and white way to answer those things or put it in place. But I am a believer in funding the police and funding them to the point where it gives us the safety that we need in our community. Uh, but at the same time, that they've got to respect the public, and both have a job to do, and that's how we treat each other.
Well, definitely have to respect. It's a definitely a respect environment with law enforcement and the community. It has to be. We're placing our lives in their hands in some respects and some forms. But that was a definitely a tough question that was a tough conversation that was happening. So one of the things that get brought up that that really hits people too is that's been a really tough subject is taxes. So yeah, I know that Waxahachie City is not the bulk of the taxes. Usually it's the schools taxes that are the bulk, and then you have county coming in third. um, but taxes are affecting these property owners that have been here for like you 150 years. You're not you personally, but your family. They're affecting families. So in terms of taxation, um, are you more likely to want to vote in favor of raising taxes, lowering taxes? Are you a wait and see approach kind of guy?
Oh, and I can tell you, generally, I'm not in favor of raising taxes. Absolutely not. The tax base, the taxes needed is a necessary evil. We've got to have X amount of dollars to give the services that we need to this community. So no, I'm not a proponent of raising taxes. I'm a proponent of efficiency and productivity. There's a lot of times that all I ever hear from any interviews, the paper, anything about tax, the amount of money we need to operate. I never hear anybody talk about cost. There's two sides to that checkbook: your money in and money out. And we've got where we spend this money. Are we spending it correctly? Are we spending it wisely? Are we spending it efficiently? Are we buying the right equipment? Are we utilizing the right equipment? You never hear anything about those type of things. And I think there's an opportunity on that side of it to save some money. Uh, Before we even talk about the other side of it, I don't ever hear anybody talking about that. I see some of our equipment in town being utilized for things that's an overkill. We don't need that piece of equipment, that pickup truck, whatever, to do the job that it's doing. I really like to sit down and take a look at the cost side of it. In addition to that, taxes, no, I'm not a big proponent of raising taxes. I think that we got to have the tax base to give the services that we want, that we expect, and that we need. And then I think that the community, that the taxpayers have a voice in it. That's the other thing, Mr. LeBron. I hear, and I've heard some of your interviews with other candidates and some with the incumbents. And I hear things about the council, the staff. Very rarely do I hear the community, and what I'm here to represent the community. I'm just going to be an apparatus. I'm just a piece of equipment that relays that message to those people. It's not what Johnny Bryant thinks. It's not what the staff thinks, or what the council wants to do. It's what the community wants to do. I don't hear those things, and I want to take it back to the community. I want them to have a voice in this stuff. We send out surveys that ask people what they think. I fill them out. I send them in. I read what the people say. I don't see the action that goes with it.
Right.
What I'm trying to do is give the community their voice that I don't feel that we've had in a while.
And that is a noble thing, because the government is there for the people, definitely. Um, but you mentioned budgets, and nobody looks at what's being spent. We're already, I think, going into budget workshops. I'm going to be talking with the Waxahachie city manager here soon, Mr. Scott, and kind of breaking down what's going on the non-political side. Um, but there's a lot of, I'm sure you've looked at some of those budgets that have passed and stuff like that. And can you point maybe to one thing that kind of raised your spidey senses? Hey, what's going on with this budget? Or is it kind of in general, hey, there's some things that just we could probably do better?
Unfortunately, yes, I have looked at the budget, Mr. LeBron, but unfortunately, it doesn't drill near deep enough for me to determine those type of things. What I see is observation in the community as far as assets and idle assets not being utilized. That's what I refer to in productivity and efficiency. As far as the budget's concerned, it doesn't drill deep enough. You can put a big number in a box and say this covers roads, and our roads are going to spend a day. But what roads are we going to do? Is that the roads that needs to be done? My opinion is, in the event that I get elected in this position, that I want to spend some time in those departments. Let's go through those and let's take a look and see how those things are operating and see if that budget fits it. I've been around a lot of budgets, Mr. LeBron, and I can tell you that I've never had a department head that turned in a budget to me that didn't fill that thing up as full as they could. Usually the management or the supervision would tell you, put everything in that budget you ever wanted, because you're going to lose some of it. I know that's how it operates somewhat in the city. I'm not saying that's the way it ends. I think they probably go through it and fine tune it and cut things and decide where the priorities are. I think there's a lot more opportunity than what's known and what's looked at. So if you wanted me to tell you, exactly where I'd say I go save, I'm not going to tell you that, but I can probably tell you that there's probably opportunity to save, and with the opportunity to evaluate it and look at those budgets deeper than what's published on their internet. I know there's some money to be saved in efficiencies. I see it out there every day in observation.
Okay. Well, you definitely will look at. It sounds like you're interested in looking at what things can we save money on, and being a good steward of the money of the people of Waxahachie is a very important thing. Now, one of the other issues that's really jamming people up is this growth. We were talking about small town feel. We got a lot of places going up. These 1,200 housing starts or something like that. That number. I'm sorry if I butcher that, guys, but that's huge. There's a lot of things going on. Everybody complains about the 77 and the crowded, and you'll get some people crowded, but let's build another HEB. You got people coming from all over the place here. So what kind of what kind of things would you do if you had that magic button, and you could change something? What would you do about the way that we're growing?
I'd manage it. I think I'd manage the growth. I think that we're not managing that growth. The city, the community, we're going to grow, Mr. Brown. There's no question about it. It's a desirable place. It's a good place to live. People wants to relocate in this area, and so we're going to grow. I think that's a given, and I don't think anybody can argue with that. And I think it's a good thing. The bad thing is that we don't have to do everything tomorrow. We can take a look at this stuff. We can synchronize our mobility infrastructure with our subdivisions. I hear that the master plan and the thoroughfare plan, it's addressing that. It addresses it 10 years after the subdivisions had, we've got 900 new cars on a 2 lane bar ditch road, and we're continuing to develop more where we are not developing our streets or road or infrastructure to get people the mobility and the quality of life of just from egress and ingress and A to B that they deserve. We're putting that tax dollar revenue out there, but we're not putting that infrastructure to get them back and forth to there. In addition, what that does is it creates unsafe places. I'll give you an example. 40th Street, going out here where the picture shows, we put the police station in right there. In the event there's a fatality that blocked that road, our police would have to go around, probably take additional mile and a half, 2 miles addition to get to that accident site, simply because we have built so much up that we don't have the opportunity or the infrastructure to get to those things. I don't think that that is a priority for our staff. I think that the roads needs to be really looked at. We do have a fair amount of bad roads in this community. Uh, I'm not sure our money is going to where it needs to go. Uh, so I think without a doubt that those things could be looked at, and a lot better job be done on synchronizing, putting that growth together, not taking every subdivision down the road, not, excuse me, sir, I got two phones going, not having that every subdivision be approved. We just approved one and even had to annex that property the other day that has a thoroughfare that pushes you out to another subdivision that has not another development that has not even been approved. So we've got a potential road going to nowhere where we've got another 800 cars being dropped off in an area that's already dangerous that our kids are using daily. So I think traffic studies. I think we could have more plans up front. We could look at this stuff up front, opposed to saying this piece of property needs to be developed and these people own it. So let's think about a traffic study. That's already behind the curve, Mr. LeBron. We're behind, and it'll never catch up that way. We always see that text dot, everybody's talked about historically, that by the time we get one road built, then we're obsolete. We need to start another one. We're behind that even more, I think, in the city of Waxahachie. I know it doesn't generate revenue. It's a cost, but for the quality of life, for the taxpayers, for the community, I think those things need to be looked at a little bit deeper, opposed to approving everything that comes down the pipe.
You have a business background. Can business count on you to be business friendly?
Absolutely. I mean, business is what supports the community. I'm not interested having everybody, like I did, have to drive to the metropolitan area to make a living. So I think business that goes hand in hand. I think I referred to you earlier that my daughter has owned a business here in town and employs several, I don't know how many, but several people here in town. And absolutely that I'm a proponent of supporting her and businesses like her, small business owners, independent, minority owned small business. So yes, yeah, without a doubt.
And it does go into that. One of the things that Mayor Barnes was talking in his interview was having a balanced approach to it, and with business and industry and it all kind of coming together. He was talking about that. But this, unfortunately, we have come almost to the end. So I wanted to ask you one question before I give you to the people of Ellis County to or the people of Waxahachie to tell them why they should vote for you. The last question is, as a councilman, you're one of many. You're going to have to deal with Miss Billy Wallace, awesome lady. You're going to have to deal with Mr. Travis Smith. You're going to have to deal with others that are elected in order to come to a consensus, because you can't make it happen to yourself by yourself. Will you form those relationships in order to be able to govern?
Isn't that what it's about, Mr. LeBron? I mean, honestly, I've already started forming those relationships in the event that happen. And in the event that I don't make city council, I still want, as a community member, as a person living here, to have those relationships. I've reached out to those people. I know Billy, I know Travis, I know Melissa, I know David, I know Doug. I know a fair amount of the staff too. So yes, you can't make progress, alienate yourself, or put a division or driving a wedge between you and other decision makers. You got to be on the same end of the road, pulling the same way to get success. And we're only there for success of the community.
Yeah, yes, we are. Well, I gonna give you to the people of Waxahachie to go ahead and give them your pitch.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the time. Appreciate the opportunity again, being on the show. Uh, I can tell you that there's not anybody that'll work harder for you. I'm retired. I have time. I have energy, and I have the enthusiasm. And I'm proud just to be able to have the opportunity to run for this position. I can tell you there's not anybody that'll have more passion down there. There's not anybody that will spend more time down there. We've had some good council people in the past, but without a question, then you really want me down there working for you, because I'm working for the people. I'm giving the voice back to the people, not just a select group, but to the people. In addition to that, I don't carry the water for anybody. Didn't make my living here. I don't have any leverage of any industry, no agendas. The agenda that Johnny Bryant has is bringing the community to the people, where we can have the best town that we have, to keep what we do have, and grow responsibly, and manage that for the best of the community. Uh, any questions, anything anybody would ever want to visit with me about, I'll come to your living room. I'll sit down and talk to you. I'll tell you what I've found out in the last 3.5 years. I'll tell you my background, my resume. I'll tell you what my thoughts are. Uh, I have the time, I have the want, have the desire. And without a doubt, I'd like to be your city councilman for place 2 going forward.
Well, I've gotten a chance to interview all the candidates that are running for place 2. I feel fortunate for that. I do appreciate you coming on a show and speaking to the people of Waxahachie. I feel it was heartfelt, and I'm sure people see that come through on the screen. If y'all didn't notice, I had the weather playing there, because we're under tornado watch as of the last time I looked, and I was kind of keeping you abreast of that. Um, I have several interviews coming this week, and I have one I'm really, really excited about, having the Texas Veterans Commission on veterans, attention veterans. I'm going to have the Mr. Palladino, the executive director of the Texas Veterans Commission, on, and I'm going to be talking to him about veterans issues. And I know that that's going to be an awesome show, and it might be able to help my brothers and sisters in arms. Mr. Bryant, again, thank you so much for coming on. And, I wish you the best on your race.
I appreciate that. And thank you, Mr. LeBron, for what you do again. And I appreciate you.
Thank you.